And Francesco, from a mergers and acquisitions standpoint, are we seeing any slowdown in that area right now, or are deals getting put on hold, or is this a great time because of price, namely for currency reasons at this point?
Well, I think there's been a little bit of a dip in merger activity, I think because of the element of the uncertainty. But with regards to answering the question of whether now is a good time to go ahead with a merger or whether people should wait and see, the reality is the situation we've got at the moment is you've got a one-stop shop approach to merger clearance. So where you have a merger that has a pan-European impact and hits certain thresholds that would be caught under the European Union merger regulation, you have the benefit of making this application to the European Commission to receive clearance of your transaction. Now, that then means that rather than having to notify, say, in the UK, Spain, Italy, and wherever else potentially this merger would have an impact, you just go to Brussels and you have a set timetable, a set program, and you'll have a certain degree of certainty of what that's going to look like, or at least predictability from a regulatory point of view of what the requirements will be. Obviously, in the post-Brexit world, depending on what ends up happening between the EU and the UK, we don't really know what that could look like. I mean, potentially where you could end up is you have two merger filing requirements that will then be necessary for any company looking to do a transaction that has an impact on continental Europe and in the UK. So you'll have to go through a UK merger clearance process, and then you have a separate EU merger clearance process. That creates an element of uncertainty, possibility that you'll have regulatory authorities taking different viewpoints on what they think the competition issues are with regards to a transaction, additional costs, duplication of costs potentially, and different timelines. And so I guess there is that element of uncertainty. So I suppose in some ways, if a business were to think, well, should I stay or should I go? Should I go now or wait? Provided that the business case stacks up, provided the numbers all work, and you're thinking, well, actually, now's a great time to do a deal, then there's nothing to really kind of keep businesses from wanting to go ahead and do that, particularly if you think that it's going to be something that's going to have, again, a pan-European type of transaction that will then potentially require notification in a number of different jurisdictions. To get the benefit and the certainty of the one-stop shop, there's a lot of merit in going for that.
Yeah, John, and you've
yeah, it was an interesting pitch, I thought. It was kind of buy now while stocks last,
Yeah.
Before it gets too complicated for sort of simple manufacturing types. I think if you buy a UK company, what you really have to think about is you're not really buying UK sales. I mean, if you're buying a FTSE 250, or well, certainly a FTSE 100, less a FTSE 250, you're really buying an international business that is based in the UK. So it would seem to me large transactions could still happen because the logic says, if you take one recently, for example, Wrexham and Ball in the can business. I mean, Wrexham may have been headquartered in the UK, but really it was an international business which probably had 10% of its sales in the UK. So I think you're going to see that because nothing much has changed around that. I think true UK businesses that have domestic business and that's who they are, you're probably going to see activity there because you're buying a UK position. So it would seem to me it's going to get fairly binary. I think you're going to see large transactions and you might see small transactions to get a country position. The middle ground, the FTSE 250, where they're a little bit of both, they're not really UK. I would think people might think about that and say to themselves, actually, I need a little bit more certainty before I see that happen. I mean, that would be a fairly uninformed view, but I think that's what I would see happening.
Under your leadership, John, you've done a number of acquisitions.
We have.
And also at the same time, you've grown the dividend consecutively for the last 6 years. So
we have, yes.
And balanced that with the acquisitions. What sort of framework would you need to see to make this attractive?
Well, so you're talking about this space, the UK space or EU space. I mean, yes, we bought two businesses in the EU. I would just remind us all that 80% of all mergers and acquisitions don't actually give the shareholder the return they were looking for. So if you then put uncertainty on top of that, I think most CEOs are going to say, actually, the risks are a little, the odds are slightly weighted less in favor of than they used to be. I mean, for us, it would really be market position. So if we felt there was a compelling business that was available in a particular market that gave us a market position in some geography or a position with a particular customer, I mean, we'd certainly, I don't think anything would stop us doing M&A, because we've been fairly active we bought 5 businesses in the last 3 or 4 years, and we continue to look.